Hey guys! That's still too loud for me, hang on. There we go, that's better. Right. Before anyone asks, I'm not like back. I just happened to be on holiday and fancied doing a bit of a stream. So, what do I need here? I need to do this backpack. Let's remove that. Thanks, Pinker. So this is where I'm at with this guy. Not sure how the camera's not great. Off the thing. Already done the back of the backpack. So I need to do the other side, which I'm having to uncheck the thing. I am not back. There's not enough time to make tutorials, but streams are fine. So I'm picking kind of shiny-ish black. So I'm just using Corvus black to start with. A bit of the old thinner. Okay, so it's like impossible for me to show this because in order to figure out where the reflections are, I'm having to hold it at eye level underneath my light. It's going to go in front of it. It's going to be like that. That angle there. Got it. Okay. This is the hardest bit. Okay. In there, just kind of, I'm sketching in where my reflections are supposed to be based on my light source. One there, and across here. Down here, but basically not on that side, which is interesting. So I'll fix those scratches later. Not a Templar. This guy, I mean, it looks a lot like a Templar. You could use this for a Templar quite easily. This guy is Captain of the First Company of the Brotherhood of Eternal Scars, which is my own homebrew chapter. And the First Company wear black armour, because they're a White Scars successor. And original White Scars in the Heresy times had the Ebon Keshig, and so this is kind of a callback to that. So, just need to get that in. This first step is always really rough. Thanks, Boris. I have to say, I noticed a massive uptick in the number of people buying airbrushes when lockdown hit. Seemed like a lot of people went, oh, I'm not going to be going anywhere for a while, I guess I'll buy an airbrush. So the amount of people that bought an airbrush via my affiliate links during that time just went way up. It was kind of funny to watch. That video has actually become like my most popular video in the last 3 months or something. Like way more popular than any other. So I'm just doing this neutral grey for his armour, and I'll tint it later if I want to. This is just adding mech standard grey in. This is actually the air version. So I've been using these a lot more for this because they're like default thinner. So they're less grainy than the regular ones. The ideal goal of this kind of shiny black is that you can't tell if it's been painted or not, or if it's just the reflection. That's kind of the ideal place of where I want to get with this. Which is why I always hold it under my light to make sure that I'm getting the reflections in the right place for where I will photograph it. So, because I'm not good enough to like imagine light sources. I'm not there yet. Not sure if that's going to show up well. My camera doesn't like to focus on things this close. So, at some point, I'll mix some matte varnish in with this so that I can see what I'm doing better. But at the moment, it's not really necessary. Start blocking in the edge highlights as well. Oops. Stay. Thanks, Fidel. Get this like that. And I'll get these ones here as well. I've actually painted this guy once before on my Instagram, like the black armor. I didn't like it. Didn't really click for me the first time, so I decided to just do it again. So I just repainted all of the black armor black, which I found Black Templar contrast paint is very good for getting things back to black in just a few coats without getting any splodges. stippling that in. I'm gonna think I need to get some scratch marks going now with this colour. It's looking correct. Okay. Next we're going on to Dawnstone. I have to be able to repeat this colour scheme in some way. Nowhere near as detailed for the, was it the Blade Guard and the Ancient and the Lieutenant that was in Indomitus, because they're all forming my first company. But then the rest of the guys are all going to be in the bone colour armour. So that I've got a nice distinction between them. It doesn't want to focus on that, does it? Come on. So yes, Rob Paints Models is my Instagram. It's not particularly active because I haven't really painted much since I stopped doing YouTube, but I'm kind of back into it now. The move went okay considering everything that has happening in the world, and I'm settled in at my new job, so back to painting. This React seems to actually be bigger at this end because that's close to the point of view. Yeah. This process. Well, my camera just fell off the light. It's such a ghetto system, this. I've literally got my webcam kind of hanging off my lamp. Glad it didn't bounce all the way across my wet palette, that would have been a bit bad. I've really fallen in love with stippling these days. the best advantage of buying a wet palette, especially these, what is it, the ones with the orange heads, what is it, Red Grass Games ones, ow, is the fact that the paper is pre-cut, doesn't curl, is the right consistency. Compared to using baking paper or parchment paper, it's just so much easier to be able to just take a page out of the packet, slap it on the wet palette, and off you go. Like one packet lasts me almost a whole year, so it's good, it's decent value as well. And I change my paper almost every single time I start painting. It doesn't really start like coming together until you start doing the glazes at the end. Thanks, WTF Yuka. Although it seems there's a lot more painting YouTubers on going on these days than there used to be. And you got Angel Geralda's out there making videos now. You don't need me. Seems to be like way better painters out there doing YouTube videos than I ever was. To get some matte varnish on that now. Oh, my new favourite matte varnish, AK Interactive Ultra Matte Varnish. It's absolutely great. You can brush it on straight from the bottle and it dries so flat. It's just great. It's really important for a process like this where you're painting in reflections, because real reflections can ruin your perception of what you're doing. I don't think I've ever been accused of having charisma before. I'm basically a hermit in real life. Maybe that's why everyone likes me. We're all hermits. We'd rather stay inside painting miniatures. I am just going to give this a quick try with the headwear under the table so it doesn't deafen everyone. That's better. That's nice and flat now. Not sure if it's really going to show up on the camera that well. Let's move my mouse. But you can see that is flat now. So anything that looks like a reflection is paint. That's paint. That's what I've painted on. But this stuff is it dries really fast, this, and really flat. is I've actually found that if I run that through the airbrush, it's a little bit too flat because the airbrush increases the amount of scattering that goes on. But applied from a brush, just by hand, it is such a great finish. Okay, I need to get this on the model. It's got a bit of pink tack on it. Let's see how this looks. I like push fits because it's very easy to take them apart and put them back together again. Okay, so there we go. So that's kind of a bit tilted. That's the angle we're looking for it. Looking at this model at for our reflections. So I think I need to bring this one here on that slightly closer towards me. At the back it looks fine, and back here it also looks mostly fine. It needs to come in a little bit. It all needs to come a little bit further towards this side. I'm going to start mixing in a bit of this matte varnish into the paint so that it stays flat. I'm going to do it on this model. So this needs to come down a little bit. This is mostly fine. And this needs to come down a little bit as well. Next one's going to be Administratum Grey. I don't do armies. I am not. I used to do armies. I don't really do armies anymore. I've got like 5 Sisters of Battle sitting on my desk here that I've been trying to paint for the last month. I've just not been getting anywhere with them. Okay, that's starting to look like a reflection.
This man is a ticket for a ghost train. I believe what he said, but I never do it once again. Mama told me this is my heartache, but nothing can stop me from going insane. He's calling me,
That's working.
saying my baby girl, while he's in bed with another chick in his rose-colored world. I want to choke him, but too much treat him. I want to squeeze him and break his neck. I said, ooh, I got nothing but a heartache, and I just wanna let you know that I'm about to go insane. You know that I will soon take my gun,
Let's see if I can get my camera to do a fixed focal point, because this is starting to annoy me. Just sitting here waiting for it to focus.
This man is a ticket for a heartache.
Properties.
I want to break him bone for bone, want to stab him all night long. Even need of nothing but a heartache. I mean it when I say
Camera control. Okay,
I want to choke him.
let's turn autofocus off.
I want to squeeze him and break his neck.
There. That's better. I mean, it'll go out of focus when I go down, but you can't really see much when I'm down there anyway. I mean, I'm only painting the backpack. And I'm spending a lot longer painting the backpack than I would spend painting the whole model normally. So, if it's for an army. Hey Steve, this is Brotherhood of Eternal Scars, homebrew chapter. We're at the first company, all wear black armor, so it looks a lot like a Black Templar. Yeah, you can see his face there. That's a 12 to 16 hour face, that is.
Like I ain't even need to practice. I used to be up in the rafters. I'm going straight to the top. It ain't never been a question. Cut the check and pay attention. Y'all about to learn a lesson. It's coming straight from the top. This is for the taking. This is for the crown. It's mine right now. It's mine right now. It's mine right now. Yeah, time ain't slowing down. Mine right now. It's mine right now. You would never seen it coming, telling me that I was nothing, because I started from the bottom. I'm going straight to the top. Peace and love to all the haters. They be testing on my patience. About to get an education.
I'm trying to adjust it for the camera. There we go.
This is for the taking, this is for the crown. It's mine right now. It's mine right now.
Get some of this on the highlights.
Yeah, time ain't slowing down. Y'all always doubted me, doubted my energy, and now you're listening and looking at a king. You're looking like a clown. It's down to you and me. Now what's it gonna be? It's mine right now. It's mine right now. It's mine right now. Yeah, time ain't slowing down. Mine right now. It's mine right now. It's mine right now. Yeah, time ain't slowing down. Right now, it's mine. Right now, it's mine. Right now, yeah, time ain't slowing down.
I wouldn't hold your breath, WTF. I'm not planning on making any videos for the near future. I'm just kind of enjoying just painting for painting's sake these days. That's looking good. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay. Also in grey, don't actually have this as air paint, so I've got to use the regular one, which is Lumpy. Get out there, you bit of paint. Oh, that's going to ping all over me. There we go, got it. I actually find having the stream preview there is really handy, because it kind of lets me disconnect from the model in front of me and look at it like as if it was on a camera. My new house is really dry, so the paint dries on my breath really quickly. This highlight's too far that way. I need to fix that.
That good old sound is ringing. They don't know what they're missing. Legs ain't got time to lay low. Your knees are bending, so it's time to get up and let go.
Put it more in that corner there.
Hey, bottom, listen steady. Put down your brick, you ready. It's hot, but things get messy. Keep booty shaking, you know your head has no right to say no. Tonight it's ready, set, go. Baby, can you move around the rhythm so we can't get with and turn around and get us a rock and roll round? Down, down, body, body, coming with the super hottie, let's go. So hello, baby, can you move around the rhythm? Cause you know I'm living in the fast lane, speed up, it ain't no game. Just turn up all the beams when I come upon the scene.
Oh, that's looking better. That looks better to me. Where's the sweet spot? There it is. That looks better. Maybe push that bright highlight just a little bit closer to the corner. Kind of merge it with the edge highlight a little bit. because of the angle I'm treating this guy from. Okay, let's use a bit of the old. Bit of Corvus mixed with Black Templar to glaze things out. I am using some of the contrast paints, but in absolutely no way that they were advertised to be used. I just basically just use them as pre-thin glazes. Sometimes I use them as tints. I thin them down a lot. The only one I use like straight out of the pot is Black Templar for base coating things black, because it basically just has the same consistency as a Bad and Black. Thinned down already. But as a system for painting an entire model, I think they're awful. I'd much rather just put base coats on by hand than try and paint an entire model of contrast paints. I'm not convinced they're faster. If you've got any amount of painting experience.
Fuck it.
I use water for thinning them. There's nothing special about them, they're just acrylic paints. It's just acrylic medium at the end of the day with a couple of extra little chemicals in there, mostly alcohol. Same as all the other Citadel paints. The only difference is usually the kind of pigment they use. The ones that use inks rather than solid pigments are much more useful, because the solid pigment ones are basically equivalent to any other paint that you just add water or extra thinner to. The ink ones are slightly more different because they're much more translucent, they're more likely to tint. So, in my box down here, I think I've only got like 4 that I use regularly. Sometimes use Apothecary White. Where's the other one? I don't use that one. My paint spray is an absolute nightmare. Is that it? No. This is the bits that you miss out on in my videos. You never see me rooting through my collection of paints for 10 minutes trying to find something. There it is. The contrast paints I actually use are Athematic Blue. What is it? Flesh Tearers Red. Just a really nice red ink. Plague Bearer Flesh. Again, it's nice yellowy green ink. And Magos Purple. A nice purple ink. But I usually only use them for tinting things. Like, I think I used a little bit of the Magos purple to tint the beard of this marine face, but it was super thinned down. Like 1 part paint, like 8 parts water or something. Very, 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 very thin glaze consistency. I'm going to take this back off now. I've got the reflections where I want them. I now just need to smooth them out.
Baby, I just wanna get it right. Let's just take this slow. I hope that you don't mind. It's so easy if you wait another night. Just go with the flow. Leave it all behind.
My main complaint always about the contrast paints wasn't so much that they existed, it was the way they were advertised, which is what I didn't like. It's the way Games Workshop kind of handled the rollout of them, creating like fake hype. You can hear my music, you shouldn't be able to. Damn it, that shouldn't have turned on. Let's turn that all the way down. That'll be Nero, that will. Into the night. I didn't realise my music was playing through the stream. Can hear my terrible taste in music. Yes. I'm just trying to add definition now. Tidy up a fair bit of this. Yeah, the marketing for contrasts sucked and was designed to make people angry. It was like fully intentionally done to make people be angry about it, and therefore talk about it on the internet. I didn't like that. Which is why I stopped talking about it. Like, I did my first video after that Warhammer Fest, which went nuts because everyone wanted to know about contrast paints, and I had a hot take. Oh, stupid Iron Halo in my way. And then I was just like, oh, I'm just not going to talk about this anymore. So you can see we're getting the reflections there now. Just blending them back into black because you don't want it to be too grey. The thing is, what I always have to remember is that actually the majority of the people in this hobby are mostly in it for the gaming and not for the miniatures. The miniatures are nice, but if most people are still playing, they paint them to play with. That's what the majority of the fandom is. As is evidenced by the amount of views that bat reps get versus the amount of views that painting videos get. So contrast paints absolutely made sense in targeting that huge bit of the market that only wanted to paint their models enough to get them on the table. And I cannot begrudge anyone that, because it takes me freaking ages to paint an army. I still don't have a complete army at the moment. I've barely mustered 500 points of anything painted, because I just take too long to paint anything. That's pretty good. bit more down here. Around these. Oh, so I need to do the edge highlights again. Yeah, that was my biggest complaint, was the way that if you learnt to paint with contrast paints first, then it would be really difficult for you to learn how to paint with any other type of paint. So I was like, okay, these probably have their place, and I've found a place for them in my techniques, which is, like I said, I just use them as tints. But this is just varnishing, because I was picking up some shine. But yeah, if you're coming into it fresh, and all you've learnt is how to slap a contrast paint on a model, then get into thinning your paints, doing multiple coats, is just so hard. Is that dry? Dry enough. Okay. My palette's starting to lose its water. Still going. Let's get a bit more definition on these edge highlights. Oh damn it, this is a bop. I can't paint and bop at the same time. I've just got YouTube just doing whatever it wants in the background. I gave it a song to start with ages ago, and now it's just going off on one. Might as well do that there. You probably won't be able to see it because of where the shoulder pads will be, but I might as well have it. This stream, because I didn't realise I had music going on, is probably just going to get like archived off by YouTube, because there would be so many copyright strikes on it. But at this point it's like in for a penny, in for a pound. Might as well just leave it going. Dawnstone, why are you so thin compared to all the others? It like separates really fast compared to all my other air paints. This method of painting black is basically the same as how Trovarian paints black shiny armor, and quite similar to how Darren Latham paints it, although it's a lot less heavy metal than Darren Latham's stuff. So if you want to know how to do this, I recommend Trovarian's video on painting black armor. It's very good. I think Trovarian's still making content, so you should go give him a subscribe. I feel like this dot actually also needs to come down a little bit. Just feather it out a little bit more on the top edge. Thank you, Fidel. I loved painting those goblins. Never be able to paint a whole army of them. Goddamn. That's too many models. But I love painting me a squig. Squigs are one of my favourite things to paint. What is this tune next? Yeah, it's fine. I am going for it's kind of more of a satin black. It's in neutral tones at the moment, but I'm probably going to tint it a little bit towards the blue, and because on this guy, so the base is actually going to be like a Mars red, kind of orangey desert base. So I'm going to try and get some orange reflections just in here, and maybe a little bit under the kneecaps as well, and then just subtly tint it very slightly blue on the upper side to try and get a suggestion of sky reflecting in. But I'm just worrying about value at the moment rather than colour, so that's why I'm doing all of the armour in just neutral greys. Because I already did all the cloth and the leather. And the head. But yeah, I'm just worrying about getting the values correct at the moment. And I think after I've done this backpack, I've just got the hand on the relic shield and the sword arm, which I've done literally nothing on so far. And then I'm done getting the reflections in on the black armour. And I'll also paint on some weathering as well, which I might do some of that on the stream actually. So that's about the right angle. Yeah. I think I need to feather it out on this end just here. Just a little bit. I don't want the reflections to take up too much of the surface, otherwise it ends up just like looking like it's grey armour rather than black with a reflection on it. A bit of the old stippling. That's better. And this is still... I need to add a bit more mix some of that together. The old mick grey and the dawnstone. Just stipple it in around this highlight to try and help feather it out a bit. There we go. Big problem with using matte varnish, though, when painting black, is that inevitably makes the black look grey. And the only way around that is to either get some gloss back on there, or in photos adjust your black levels, which is what you'll see all over Instagram, because most painters will use a matte varnish in order to make sure that reflections from the cameras don't change how the model looks. But that always means that actually what you see on Instagram is usually not what the model looks like if you looked at it in real life. Because in real life it'll look a lot kind of grayer in the blacks. This is a thing you can notice if you go to Warhammer Fest and Golden Demon events, and you'll see models that you might have seen on Instagram, and they won't look as good in real life under the cabinet lighting as they do in photographs of them. And that's because the black points get adjusted on the photographs and the levels get fixed. I'm just painting in a little bit of black Templar here into the sides so I can get my black point back. Black Templar having a little bit more satin finish than everything else I've been using, so it will do a similar thing. I'm also going to do a trick that I learned from one of Darren Natham's videos. It's not exactly how he pitched it, but I found it worked quite well. And you might not be able to tell, but it is there, because this camera's not great. But here, on his leg, on the outside edge, it's actually slightly red, and same there, and that's glazing in some Rhinox hide, a baboof. Satin finish is usually the best for like gaming models if you want them to look good on the tabletop. Matte is usually best for if you're going to take photos of them. Gloss is terrible, don't use gloss. Unless you have a specific reason to have a glossy finish. Let's get some of that matte varnish as well. So this is super thin. Can barely see that at all. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to glaze this Rhinox hide into my dark spots. And it actually makes it look darker because optical illusions. It does a weird thing to your colour perception, which makes it look like it's darker than it really is. Yep. It's really subtle, but it's there. Now you look at it under a bright enough light, you'll be able to see it. But it's one of those things, because this guy is not really destined for the tabletop. I just want to make sure he looks good from the couple of angles I will photograph him. Revealing that most miniature painting on the internet is actually all smoke and mirrors. Because it actually turns black into your midpoint between those two colours. Okay, let's get a bit more of this Ultron Grey. Dot all them corners. Where's those rivets? There they are. Thanks for coming out, Jabber. Ah. Didn't land in the wet pallet. I'm safe. Oopsie. I'm gonna fix that. later. Hey Tim, new job's going great. Ooh. I cannot talk about it though, because NDAs and stuff. Just stick a bit of extra primer over those. They've happened because that's where the shoulder pads rub when I've been putting them on and off. But I'm going to be painting those with metallics later anyway, so it's not a big deal. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Tim. I'm glad I'm doing well too. Let's paint in some of these rando details at the back here. Back? Is this the back of the backpack or the front of the backpack? Because in my brain, that side is the front, and this is the back, but that's at the front of the model and that's at the back of the model. There's a head scratcher for you. Okay. We do the rest of that. By slapping on some black Templar. Nice. When it comes to these really tiny details, since no one can really see them properly, you don't have to do that great of a job on them. Let's paint something. A colour. Where the hell's my red? There it is. I need to get myself a decent set of drawers to keep my paints in. I'm currently just living in a flight case under the desk. red, and then straight on to Fire Dragon Bright. It's so tiny, I only need 3 paints. In the middle of the old Dawn Yellow, or something similar. What's that? Blade One Flesh, that'll do. Ew. It's gone all gooey. Mix a little bit of orange into it. Try and get a dot in the middle. It's like doing an eye, but a bit easier actually. Doesn't show up very well on the camera, but tiny little orange light, there we go. Everything else I can do is do that with a bit of this. Pick out the bottom edge of this ring. Just pick that up with some grey. Then a little bit the old Ulthuan grey. Maybe a little bit more that's actually wet. There we go. It's very difficult to see on camera. I can see it. I'm going to paint those other wires a colour. I'm not going to do yellow. Yeah, I might just do one of them white, red actually, since I've already got it on the palette. There's 2 wires there, isn't there? We'll do the inside one red. This is different. What's this? Evil Sons or Wild Rider? Wild Rider, that'll do. It's so small. And a bit of this, bit of this, and a bit of this. Make myself very pale pink. And just give it a tiny highlight. So, again, Black Templar for clean up. Clean up that cable that's on the other side. Ooh. Do I have any advice about painting a Dreamforge Knight / Leviathan? I have seen those. I've never painted one. I've never had one. But my advice for painting anything large is to do it in sub-assemblies. Just break it down into tasks and tackle it a bit at a time. I have painted plenty of Imperial Knights, which are similar size. And with those, it was mostly just a case of paint. I had the entire chassis was painted one way, usually with dry brushing, and then I did the armor plating with the airbrush. And lots of masking. Vehicles are very different to how I paint everything else. I don't think I ever actually did a video on painting a vehicle. Apart from that tiny little tank that I did, like 1/72 scale tank I did. I'm going to look up this. Make sure I just talked about the thing. Dreamforge Leviathan. Ah, yes. Yeah, they're a bit bigger than Imperial Knights, aren't they? Yeah, I've painted some Forge World Knights as well, which are similar sizes. Yeah, they're closer to a Titan, aren't they? Or the very big, what is it, the Knight Castigators and stuff. I painted one of those a while back. And yeah, it's all sub-assemblies, and airbrush helps massively. If you don't have an airbrush, get yourself a really big brush and some very thin paint and just take your time with it. Because on something that big, smooth coats really matter, as do smooth blends. And don't go too over top on the on weathering effects, because you kind of have to remember to paint all your weathering in scale. That's the thing a lot of people struggle with. I struggled with it for a really long time, is to make sure that your weathering is in scale. Sometimes you can paint like what looks like a decent paint chip on a vehicle, and it turns out that one paint chip would actually be the size of a football if you scaled it up to be equivalent to real life, and would look ridiculous. So yeah, just yeah, sub-assemblies, keep your weathering in scale. Smooth paint coats is my advice, and just be patient, because something that big takes a long time. That's why sub-assemblies help mostly, because you can break it down into small bits you can get achieved. Like, I usually like to paint like a whole shoulder pad to completion, then you can sit back and go, that shoulder pad looks ace! Shame I haven't finished the rest. But you get there eventually. I really want to paint a big Titan, but there's no way I've got enough time in my life to be able to paint something that bigger these days. Okay, so that's one cable. I've got another. There's another cable to the left of that. What is it? Ribbed, I guess. Tube. Another cable to the right of the red one. And I'm thinking this one on the left, I actually kind of want to do yellow. I'm a glutton for punishment. Where's my Avalon Sunset? There's a real yellow. That'll come in handy. Because I might as well get these done, because they're so tiny. That's not it. Is that it? That's it. Avalon Sunset. Yeah, Muddy Legs, get yourself some, where is it? Boop. Pigments for that final stage at the end on big figures. These are I can't even read that. Light's too shiny. Abtalung 502 pigments. These are really good. These are for doing scale models. They're generally like, you want to be looking at scale modeling techniques more than miniature painting techniques for something that big. Like, a lot of what we do on miniatures around the 28-32mm scale stuff doesn't apply brilliantly to the bigger models, because a lot of what we're doing is trying to falsify lighting effects that would occur naturally on bigger models. Yeah. We've all been given the gift of time. And the curse of having to stay inside all the time. Yeah, I keep meaning to try out Abtalung oils, but I've not had a lot of vehicle projects on my table. Like this I got because I am planning on using it on the feet of this guy, but it turned out to be a lot paler than I was expecting. I need something a little bit redder. But they work really well. So that dried out on my brush while I was talking. That's I mean, if you want a really quick solution for rust streaks, Scrag Brown thinned down is just like my go-to method. It's just like, it gets you straight to the end result straight away without having to mess about with any oils or anything like that. Like, once you know how you want it to look and how rust behaves on a model, you can just paint rust straight in. Sure, Stephen M., you can ask for some feedback on your chapter master. If anybody ever wants feedback on anything, just tag me on Instagram and ask, and I will give you my honest feedback. You might not like it, but it depends what kind of thing you're going for. Like, if you just specify this is for an army, or this is for display, or this is to try and win Golden Demon with, and then I will give you the appropriate feedback. Because the one thing I always miss is actually being able to get decent feedback. I'm not like so good that no one can tell me how to do it better, but all the people that I look up to as painters, typically their feedbacks are only available if you pay them money via their Patreon. And even then, you're kind of lucky if they actually do give you the feedback, because they're just inundated. So this is a dead quick yellow cable. I'll do the other one. Blue? Blue. Might as well get some decent colours in there. There's not going to be much colour anywhere else on the model. I need a blue. dirty blues or something. That's purple. How's all my blues? I want a bit of a darker blue than that. Where's Cantor blue? I'm not going to be able to find it in the dark. I shall get back to you, Stephen M, after the stream with some feedback. That's metallic blue. What's that? The Fang? Yeah, not really. Calgar blue. Calgar blue will do. I can mix it with a bit of black. No, wait, this is Calidor Sky. It will do. Ultimately, it just... yeah, that'll be fine. Take a bit of the Black Templar and mix it in. There we go, that'll work. In case anyone is wondering, I've actually switched over to using Raphael 8404s these days. Because I haven't been able to get Winsor & Newton Series 7s for my good brushes in the right sizes. This whole stream brought to you by the same one, Raphael 8404. I'm always very careful with changing brush brands. The reason being, I usually only ever change brands at a point when my old brush has become too, like, the point on it is broken to the point where I can't really use it anymore. So any new brush always seems like the best brush in the world in comparison to what I was painting with. All I can say is that these 8404s are definitely have allowed me to paint everything exactly how I want it to, every single time. So there we go. Let's see if I can adjust the brightness on that camera without destroying everything. Let's go. Can't auto that. Exposure's on auto. Let's just do. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Just getting that stuff done out of the way now. Means I don't have to do it later. Just tidy up that gap. Tidy up between those and those. One of the great things I found about the Black Templar contrast paint is because it flows so readily, it's really good for just blacklining stuff really quickly. So I'll almost always have some of it on my palette. Changing up your brushes is one of those things that is like eye-opening. Going from like the regular GW brushes, like the Artificer brush is good. It's a Kolinsky Sable brush, which is basically all that matters in miniature painting, is just getting a good Kolinsky Sable. But it's overpriced for what it is. Like, I think in the UK, 8404s size 1 I think is about £8 plus shipping. And I've got there it is. I've also got size 00, which is about equivalent to a Winsor & Newton Series 7 size 1. But I haven't needed to use this, because the point on this size 1 8404 is so sharp. I swear it's probably the sharpest point I've worked with. It's very stiff, so it doesn't flex much, which makes it great for stippling and great for doing eyes as well, pupils and eyes, which is the thing I was having trouble with. And its belly actually holds quite a lot of paint. And I haven't verified this, but I've seen people do it. But if you basically cut the ferrule and take the bristles out, the bristles are actually curved on these, whereas on Winsor & Newtons they're straight, and the only thing holding them into the correct shape is a bit of string. So yeah, I'm converted to the Raphael 8404s. They're just so precise, and they've made stippling so good. Like, stippling with the Series 7s was good, but with these it's just on a whole other level. But it comes to a point where that if you can reach a certain skill level and it's like not really going to make much of a difference, your paintbrush, but certainly stepping up from synthetic brushes to Kolinsky Sable is a huge game changer. It's about as big as changing from a dry palette to a wet palette, which was the other thing that just like leveled up my painting game massively when I did it. So even if you have to build your own wet palette from a Tupperware and a bit of sponge and some paper, get yourself a wet palette. It's like the biggest single thing that will change how you paint. Got a weird discrepancy in my finish there. I mean, I'll go over it entirely with the matte varnish after I'm done, but it was annoying me. Yeah, Rosemary & Co brushes, the Series 33s, I swear by them as cheap brushes. Like, they're the best balance between price and quality that I found. It's like, as an entry-level brush, the Series 33s from Rosemary & Co, really good. If you can afford a little bit extra, then I'd go for these. I've tried the Artis Opus brushes, they're nothing special. And I've tried, what was the other one? The Broken Toad brushes, which are good, but a bit, not got enough, they were too springy. They too flexible. Very good for edge highlighting, not a lot good for anything else. But they were my go-to brush for a long time for edge highlighting. Let's get this on the model and see how it looks. Let's put them together a bit and see. Have a look. Stick his arms on too. I've still got to do this left arm, right arm, done the left arm. I should really know better than to put the backpack on first. It's arms, then backpack. There we go. Okay. So, as you can see, you can't really see it that much, but they're painted in there. It's so hard to see those tiny little wires that I painted, but I painted them and I know they're painted now. So that's from the back. This bit's going to be metallic. And these are going to be gold trim, cream interior. So I'm going to do a little bit of weathering on the leg, one of the legs. And then I might just go ahead and paint the entire base because I fancy it. Something a bit messy. So where are we going to put some scratches? I mean, I've got this damage that I've drilled in. What's that doing? Okay. Go for some. Now I know there's a line there. I did just dust the Mini with that big brush. It's what stops you getting lumps of dust stuck underneath your paint. No one ever told me that. And then I was like, wait, if I just dust my miniatures before I start painting them, then that's not going to happen to me anymore. It's not a special brush. This is what is this? It's a QVS powder brush. It's just a makeup brush from a drugstore. Very cheap one. As long as you don't like ever get any paint on it, it's just perfectly fine for getting dust off. Let's try it out. Okay, get the big long line in. Get the dark line in. Again, another good use of Black Templar. And get a bit of the old Corvus Black, thin it down, give myself a nice glaze, and then just feather out the ends. Adding battle damage is easy. Knowing when to stop, that's the hard bit. Yeah, don't spend $20 on a dusting brush. It's for dusting. I mean, some of Tamiya's stuff is amazing, but like their nippers are absolutely amazing. But I wouldn't spend $20 on a brush just for dusting a model. The thing about weathering as well, with these scratches, you can always paint over them if you don't like them. That's gone weirdly shiny. Oh, that's much better. Just getting the kind of star around these bullet holes. Just makes them look a little bit more permanent. Thanks, Igor. It's not Black Templars. It is a homebrew chapter, so... I'm actually going to do a thing. Ooh, that's dried out a little bit. It's so hot in here, especially with the light on. Let's try something else. Let's start with that. So, Space Marine armour. It's made of ceramite, right? According to all the lore. Well, surely the ceram bit stands for ceramic. Which means if you've ever painted Space Marine armour with metallic chips in it, technically you're wrong. I'm not going to tell you off for it. Like, it's an obvious conclusion to jump to. But ceramic body armour is a real thing that we have. So we know what it looks like when it gets hit by bullets and shrapnel. There is reference out there. And the reality is that a really deep impact on Space Marine armour wouldn't be metal. It wouldn't even be that dark brown colour that everyone uses for the undercoat. It would actually be in kind of weird, like, mid-tones of brown / white, greys, neutral colours. So I am using some Steel Legion drab, and then I will be taking it to. I'm going to take it, highlight up with Flayed One Flesh because I have it out, and it'll work. This super goopy Flayed One Flesh that I have. I have another part of it that's slightly better, but I can't find it. It's almost Baneblade brown. So yeah, all these pock marks we're actually going a light brown with them. Which actually solves one of the biggest problems I've always had with weathering black armour. Is making the weathering stand out. My black's drying out. in the heat. It doesn't matter how much you hydrate it from the top, from the bottom. If the heat is just evaporating it faster than it can replenish. There's still plenty of water in my palette. Actually getting rid of that scratch that I painted there, because I prefer the paint chip rather than the scratch, and the scratch is touching the chip and that doesn't look very good to my eye. Still make sure to highlight the top of the black armor essentially. Because that's what makes the chip look three-dimensional. There we go. That one sucks. So I'm just going to paint over it. Although actually, now that I'm painting over it and covering up this top part, that already starts to look better. Just shortening it. This is what I mean about keeping your battle damage in scale. By making that smaller, it actually looks better. So I actually think that's like enough battle damage on that leg. Got that chip on the side there. That. Just needs painting in. I don't know what music's come on now. Boop. There's an extra weird video for that song as well. Let's change the tone. There we go. I am alive. I've always been alive. I never stopped being alive. I just stopped making YouTube videos. So I think that's enough battle damage on that shin pad and the knee. And because my hand is starting to cramp up, I'm going to change to doing something different. So pull him off the base. I think I'm going to paint the base a bit because I want to get some of that done. And I'm actually going to follow what can be known as a missing tutorial. It's a tutorial that only ever appeared on my Patreon. That's the wrong YouTube account. Because I can't remember exactly how I did it off the top of my head, but I know that I want to recreate it. That's going to be like the last page, I guess. Because it's old. Yeah, that's the one. Boop. I need to pause my music so I can actually listen to myself talk. Sorry, Sim. Or will the closed captions work? Mornfang Brown. That's the first one. Mornfang Brown. Which probably means at some point I will need to crack a brown. I know I have Mornfang Brown. Where is it? Is that it? That looks like XV88. That's XV88. Yes, that's Mornfang Brown for definite. Let's do this dry brush style. Boop. Do that to dry now. What was the next colour? I'm betting it was Scrag Brown. It was Scrag Brown. But after that point I can't remember what I did. I originally did this one with an airbrush. But I'm just going to dry brush it because I think it'll look fine. I think it'll look better, actually. Just need to hairdryer this. Mornfang Brown. Anacron 1. I have. Woo. It's that precarious webcam on light situation going on. I have painted orcs by hand to look like that, and I will say this: it takes a really long time without an airbrush. It's like not remotely a fast process. My suggestion, actually, for painting orc skin without an airbrush is to start light and shade, like not like slap on a wash, but just like start with your lightest colour, usually some kind of just light green, and then shade it back by shading in like darker greens and more saturated greens into the recesses. I think it was a really long time ago now, but I think there was a Instagram post by Warhammer Community that said how the Heavy Metal team painted orc skin for the Flash Gits, and it was basically paint it a kind of bright medium-ish green and then shade in the darker colours very carefully, and that got a decent result. But yeah, I don't actually know a fast way to paint orc skin without using an airbrush. I don't know of a fast way to paint skin without using an airbrush, to be honest. Every time I paint skin, it takes me hours. So, scribe brown. And there's my bit of tissue. There's my bit of tissue. Relatively heavy dry brush of this. Where's the front? The front is this side. Yeah, if you want to knock out like 90 orcs, then contrast paints are probably your best bet. Oh damn. That's a lot of orcs. Yeah, contrast is your boy for that, if you don't have an airbrush. That's one thing. I want this one. I need to go to a Games Workshop store and buy more paint. It's like the only thing I actually buy in a Games Workshop store is paint, because paying the shipping on paint always seems dumb when you only need like one or two. Sodium lights on some scenery. Ew. That's a tricky one, because sodium lights don't ever, even when in real life, they don't ever really seem to bloom out to white. But my recommendation is to probably just start with some oranges and yellows, and then work your way up to almost white in the very center of the light source. That's how I'd approach it. That's kind of working. What was the next colour? Fire Dragon Bright. I have that out. It's all the oranges, this technique, apparently. There's a great app if you have an Android phone called Brush Rage, which has some amazing tools for being able to figure out what colour paint something is, and you can give it literally any picture and like eyedropper a point in the picture, and it'll give you as close a paint match as it can get. And I use that a lot for figuring out what is the closest colour to something I want to achieve, even if it's a real life picture. So, not sure how that's showing up. You can kind of see the detail getting picked up. Yeah, App Store, Brush Rage. Excellent app. I think it's free. I can't remember. If it isn't free, it's not very expensive. Maybe a couple of quid. Ah, there we go. Building up the orange. Starting to take shape. I always try and do dry brushing on my bases in one direction as much as I can, like front to back, rather than just going every which way. So, there you go. So you can see it's a lot darker at the back there than it is at the front. And thank Cujo Painting for that one. Yes, ImpCat is another great app. I love trying out colour schemes on that. Sometimes just lie on the couch, plugging in Space Marine colour schemes and going, oh yeah, that's pretty good. And never painting it. But of all the painting apps that I've tried out, Brush Rage and ImpCat are the ones that I actually use. Paint Rack is okay, but it's no Brush Rage. A little bit, it's got side to side just around the back, just a little bit. I have bought an Indomitus box. Well, I bought half an Indomitus box off a friend. I bought the Space Marine half. Yeah. More Fire Dragon Pro. Oh, it goes up to Cadian Flesh Tone. That does make sense. That does seem like something I would do. That past me would do. Where the hell is my Cadian Flesh Tone? That's because no flesh. There, looks promising. There it is. I liked the Necrons, but it was a question of money. I was like, I couldn't afford a whole set to myself. And I knew I would definitely paint the Space Marines. But I might not paint the Necrons, so I just went with the Space Marine side. Bit more of that. I like the 6-shooter guy that they teased the other day. What was it, a week ago? Yeah, it's great. Camera's literally... There's my light. It's just perched on top of the lamp. It's a very professional setup I've got going on here. I'm using fixed focus so that when I hold it there so you can actually see it big enough, it actually is in focus. What was my next step? Cadian Flesh Tone. Doodly doodly do. Oh, and then I was going to do the sanding areas. Which are... Actually, at some point I added some Troll's Lair orange back in. I might just stipple that in. What colour did I use for the sand, though? It was Zandri Dust. Or Sandy Dust. Troll's Lair orange. Oh, bloody hell. I don't think I have any of that anymore. I don't think I do. I think I ran out a while ago. Yep. Oh, wait, what's that? Hey, I do have some. Yes, there's definitely some in this bottle. Go on, lid. There we go. So I'll just stipple some of this Troll's Lair orange in. Yeah, that's what I want. Okay, so now I need Zandri Dust to base coat the sand areas, which is, I've got like 3 pots of that. Or something. I keep forgetting that I've got a pot and then I buy another pot going, oh, I need Zandri Dust. I'm going to use a bit of varnish for this. Sort of thin it down and it will flatten it out. Because I don't really care if I'm that neat with this, because it's sand. And I'll probably end up covering it with pigments at the end anyway. I always like to be a little bit messy with my bases. Because it inevitably adds a little bit more character, because you paint something natural, not something man-made. So having a little bit more randomness in there is beneficial. So that's what we're kind of going for, Nevada style base, but it's just it's not how it really looks. It's based on stylized pictures and photographs and stuff of the area. Ooh, Terminator Stone. I don't even know if I have that anymore. Probably don't have Terminator Stone anymore. Was it air paint that I'm pretty sure I stopped making. I do have, what is this, pale sand? That'll work. Oh, that needs to dry off. Just a sec. There we go. I'm going to stick this back on autofocus for a bit. The old pale sand. I'm going to use a different brush for this. This is a slightly smaller one. That's looking good. Okay. I mean, this is metal, but I can worry about that afterwards. I mean, I might actually just take that out and put a bush in where the hole is. I think I will. I'm going to do that. Can I get it out from the other side? No. Okay, let's clip that tab off. I'm just going to put a bush in there. A shrub. Guys, I don't like there being a weird bit of man-made stuff on the thing. There we go. And we'll just cover that up. No one will ever know, except everybody that's watching. It's fine. It's all good. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of Franklin Flesh Shade and a little bit of Agrax Earth Shade. If I can find either of those paints, I'll be happy. What's that? It's Gollum and Flesh. Okay, close enough. And that's gloss. Regular. So I'm just gonna hand do some of the shadows a little bit on those rocks, just to increase the contrast on them a little bit. So, just kind of painting in behind the little stones. A bit of the Gollum and Flesh. I would also use Franklin Flesh Shade. They're basically the same colour. They're basically the same thing for this job. And then similar thing with some Agrax, but I'm just going to use that straight from the pot. Just using this to make any shadows a bit deeper. Add a little bit of definition around the bottom of these rocks where I want there to be a harsh line as opposed to the ones where I want them to blend into the sand. All that's really needed for that. And I don't want to like slap a load of Agrax Earthshade over this texture here. It's in here. Because what will happen is I'll just get too high contrast and I want it to actually stay roughly where it is. Otherwise it won't look like sand that's built up. It'll look more like pebbles. And that's not what I want. So what I might actually do is I might just grab some of that pale sand. And just kind of carefully try and catch the tops of some of these small stones. So the darkest colour is still the Zandri dust. I don't want it to go any darker than that. Just kind of tapping the side of my brush against the texture so that it gets picked up. It's not dry brushing. My brush is very wet, but it's letting the texture of the model do all the work for me. In a few spots I'll just use that a little bit like an edge highlight. It's looking pretty good. Okay. I'm gonna get some of the Fire Dragon Bright, a little bit of that Pale Sand, mix them together to create some kind of colour. There's definitely some kind of colour. And just do a few more specific edge highlights with that. On my rocks. Again, not being too precise with this stuff. Because remember, our point of view on it's mostly going to be like that. Once the guy's on. So that's the angle that we want to look good. Let's grab a tuft quickly. And cover up that spot. Sucks. Don't want too much greenery on here because it is desert, but I think that spot works well. And use some Black Templar to edge the base, and the base is basically done. I'll need a second coat. Ow, hot. That was very hot. And a second coat of that. Fix that before it dries. Yeah, I can fix that with some Monofact brown around the back. It's only around the back, no one will care. drop your brush all over yourself. Important step. It's a shame I don't have all the original footage of my tutorials, because I could do a supercut of every time I drop something. And it would probably be a half-hour long video. Hey, Smash Pie. Just need to dry around the back there. I am nearly done with this stream, I think. Ow. My blue tack's gone all soft. I do not Twitch, so I have no name on Twitch. I generally only do on YouTube, because that's where my audience was originally. There we go. Put him back on his base now. Focus. Yeah, that looks good. I do not go live very often. This is a rare occasion. Because I'm actually on holiday from work for a week. I might go live more this week, but after that, probably not that much. It's always good to get the base done early sometimes. Let's stick everything on, have a look-see. Still haven't decided what colour I'm actually going to do the undersuit yet on this guy. So this is where we are. Let's get things out of the background so the camera doesn't try and focus on them. None of this wet palette for the camera. None of that. Or this. Or these. So that's where we're at. Now, one of the things that always throws me when I'm painting reflections is there's something in the way, you can't see him. With this guy. But I've been painting him from this angle here. So that's where the reflections are supposed to be coming from. Obviously, a large amount of them are actually behind the shield that I've painted today. But that's why I do things on this leg first. Everything I've done, I've started with this leg, because that's going to be the thing that you can't really see most of the time, so it's, well, I'm fine with making mistakes on it. I'm very, very happy with that head. But I spent 2 days painting it, so... I actually started out with Steel Legion Drab as its base colour, believe it or not. Because I wanted to be a lot darker skin tone than what I normally do, which is usually very pale. But I didn't want to go so dark that you wouldn't be able to see his head amongst his armour. So I think I hit a good mid spot. I think it still reads as black armour, even though it's quite shiny and quite a lot of grey in there. And from behind. As you can see, that's all painted on reflections, and when you just look away, look back, you wouldn't think it was. This is the first time I've actually pulled that effect off, like, to a level that I am happy with, that I think is remotely convincing. That's why I'm very happy with that. I was considering going for non-metallic metals on the metallic surfaces, but I've decided against it. Because I think I've already pushed myself far enough on this model. And I've got this big old shield to do yet. So there you go. I'm going to take some pictures of this and put them on my Instagram, which is at Rob Paints Models. Give us a follow. I'm a lot more active over there than I am on the YouTube these days. You can see my F-rail stern. In fact, I will show off my F-rail stern right now, for those that haven't seen. This was the first model I finished since I actually started painting again, since... Ow! I just biffed my knee on the computer. Well, the other computer, the work computer. So this is the first model I finished after moving to my new job, my new house, and giving up YouTube. She was an inspiring. So I had to paint her. But that's my normal flesh colour. You can see it's a lot lighter than this guy. And I have a little mate over here on the desk, half finished. So I still need to do his head and his arms, and then I can set on the metallics. But yeah, if you want to keep up to date on that stuff, at Rob Paints Models on Instagram, at Rob Paints Models on Twitter. I'm a lot more active on Instagram than I am on Twitter. I also got a Facebook page, which I don't really post to that much. Two can do it. This is actually my partner's wet palette, because mine went all mouldy and I don't have a spare sponge for it yet. So this is the end of the stream. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. It is 20 to midnight, it's almost bedtime. And I am roasting underneath this lamp. I will probably be doing more streams in the week. I hope to get this guy finished this week. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not necessarily going to do them all on stream, but you'll certainly see a lot more of him around. And then once I'm done him, I'm probably going to try and finish off the Harlequin chap, so I can have this duo done. So yeah, thanks for coming out. Smash that bell if you want to be notified when I go live in the future.